And if there's one piece of advice I can give to the media, it's this: refuse to print self-serving claims that the person making them won't put his or her name to. Refuse to connive at dishonour by acting as the assassin's knife.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was Tony Abbott last Tuesday blaming the febrile media for rewarding traitors and bringing him down. And as Australia recovers from its third political coup in just 5 years, it's worth asking, is he right?
Malcolm Turnbull era. Abbott blames white-anting media conniving.
Being an Australian political leader is certainly harder than it's ever been. There are more polls, more commentators, and much more personal abuse. And it's become so brutal, it's making us famous.
Australia, coup capital of the democratic world. Covering Australian politics feels more like conducting a triage of the wounded and slain. The bloodletting has become so brutal that party rooms have come to resemble abattoirs.
But while most would accept that the 24-hour news cycle and our obsession with politics makes it tougher to lead, most would also agree with John Howard that it wasn't the media who brought Tony Abbott down.
I do think that the major reason why the Liberal Party made the change was the state of the polls. I've said in the past that politics is relentlessly driven by the laws of arithmetic, and I do think if the polls had been different, even to a modest but measurable degree, then there may not have been a change.
As Malcolm Turnbull pointed out in launching his challenge, the Abbott government lost 30 news polls in a row. And while there's no doubt some of Tony Abbott's rivals in the party used the media to destabilise him, many insiders say the PM's office played that game even harder.
It's certainly true that Abbott's government leaked, but the chief leaker was Abbott's office.
Half a dozen other commentators, like the Telegraph's Miranda Devine, Sky's Peter Van Onselen, the Australians' Nikki Sava, and the Financial Review's Phil Coorey have also made that point. But it's not just the leaks. One senior Abbott minister accused Fairfax Media of running a jihad against the government. And last week, Alan Jones and Andrew Bolt made similar claims.
You've said here today that Turnbull has one big advantage over Abbott. The media and the Twitter sphere have been absolutely feral.
What Tony Abbott was undergoing from Twitter and the media generally was just unbelievable. And as I wrote recently, you wondered how Abbott could ever win, where people would make up stuff like, or report complete falsehoods like he'd snubbed the gay partner of our ambassador to France when he actually took the bloke to dinner. Things like that. Joe Hockey being portrayed as corrupt on the front page of the paper. Their candidate in Canning, Andrew Hastie, the former SS captain, portrayed falsely as a potential war criminal. I mean, this is just absolutely true. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah. There's little doubt that Fairfax was hostile to Tony Abbott, especially in the last few months. But the Prime Minister had loud support from News Corp, which prints around 2/3 of our big city dailies. Indeed, back in 2013, its papers helped Tony Abbott defeat Kevin Rudd, with headlines like these.
Kick this mob out.
Send in the clown.
Tony's time.
During that 2013 campaign, Sydney's Daily Telegraph ran 177 stories that were anti-Labor or pro the coalition, and a mere 11 stories that leaned the other way. And while Mr Abbott was PM, the telly bashed the new Labor leader with front pages like these.
Bill's Mush Fund.
Carbon zombies.
Castaway Bill.
So, to say the Prime Minister was given no chance by the media and they were united against him is just absurd. In fact, what's remarkable is that he lost his grip on power despite all that media support. And the Australian's Paul Kelly is one of many to say he has only himself to blame.
Abbott's tragedy is that he made too many mistakes and misjudgments. He never established an emotional rapport with the people.
From the night of that first disastrous budget in May 2014, it was clear the PM was close to the Telegraph and its team. That's him with the editor, Paul Whittaker. And at the IPA dinner 1 year before, it was obvious he wanted to be close to Rupert Murdoch too. Indeed, Abbott and his advisers' determination to play favourites led to Fairfax Media and others feeling shut out.
I think, like a lot of things under Tony Abbott, even the media became combative and divided, and he certainly just played to his supporters, if you like. I don't want to be critical of my peers or anything, but it was just blindingly obvious that the News Corp tabloids were completely faithfully loyal to Abbott, and I think it did him a disservice, to be honest, because everything went to them. It didn't bother me whether they were dropping them stuff or not, and they would faithfully regurgitate.
Tony Abbott was also on close personal terms with two of the country's most powerful media commentators, 2GB's Alan Jones and News Corp's Andrew Bolt.
Alan is a friend of mine. Andrew Bolt is a friend of mine. I think they are both very significant commentators, and they've got a lot to say, as you know. Both of them have got a lot to say. I often agree with it. Occasionally I don't agree with it.
Andrew Bolt repeatedly savaged Abbott's Labour rivals and was supportive of him right from the start, when the PM granted him his first extensive interview.
1-on-1, Bolt and Abbott. We're not going to rush, but we'll get it right, says Tony.
Abbott a firm hand at helm of nation.
Alan Jones was also often fulsome in his praise.
In a world where loyalty is in short supply, isn't it? What a performance by Abbott yesterday. Loyalty. It's in short supply. Class act.
Once again, it's remarkable that Abbott was felled despite their support. And it shows how little power they actually have, which is no doubt one reason why Jones and Bolt both raged last week against those who had brought their good friend down.
Just one word for Malcolm Turnbull. Judas.
Judas, people not happy. The way it's done, the way it was done was beyond belief. The way it was done, unbelievable.
But their dismay was as nothing to 2GB's Ray Hadley, who has welcomed Scott Morrison onto his show almost every week for 2 years, and who demanded on Friday that his old mate swear on the Bible he had not been a part of the plot to bring Abbott down.
Do you understand now that I think you misled me and my listeners on Monday?
Well, I didn't, Ray.
Well, there's a Bible there. Do you want to put your right hand on it and swear on that Bible?
Well, I don't have one, mate. And there's not one here, and I don't see what my faith's got to do with it, Ray.
Well, then it would be easier for people to believe...
Mate, you get to judge my policies, but you don't get to judge my faith, mate.
No, it would be easier for people to believe you if you were prepared to swear...
I don't have to swear on a Bible, mate. I swear an oath when I take a ministerial office. I swear an oath when I go as a Member of Parliament, and that's where I do those things, because they're serious things you do in our parliamentary chamber as part of our democracy. I didn't mislead you on Monday, mate. I haven't misled you at any time in our discussions over years.
After Hadley abruptly ended the interview with his mate, Morrison told reporters at Parliament House he wasn't going to buckle to that sort of hectoring.
I will not be bullied when it comes to my religion or faith. I was not bullied when I was stopping the boats by people smugglers. I won't be bullied by anybody in this place or outside this place.
So, how will these right-wing warriors go with the new PM? Well, all have laid into Turnbull personally in recent times. Hadley has called him smarmy, a spoiled brat, a toff, and an elitist snob. Bolt has labelled him lousy, a fake, selfish, deceitful, arrogant and self-serving. And Jones told him last year in a famous interview he would never be PM while trying to whip him into line.
Malcolm Turnbull, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time. Can I begin by asking you if you could say after me this? As a senior member of the Abbott government, I want to say here I am totally supportive of the Abbott hockey strategy for budget repair.
Alan, I'm not going to take dictation from you.
Shortly afterwards, Turnbull told the media, as Morrison has now done, that he would not be bullied by shock jocks. And by then, he'd already taken aim at Andrew Bolt for accusing him of plotting against the PM, calling him deranged and bordering on the demented.
And I just have to say to Mr. Bolt, he proclaims loudly that he is a friend of the government. Well, with friends like Bolt, we don't need any enemies. Thank you.
So, now Malcolm's in power, will he bother to woo them? And does he need to? Not according to Jones's biographer, Chris Masters, who told Media Watch,
Turnbull doesn't need to do anything to reach out to Jones or Bolt, and that is what has them so worried.
Top political lobbyist Sue Cato takes a similar view, asking,
who are the Liberal Conservative voters going to vote for if they hate Turnbull?
And suggesting that Bolt, Jones and others are also victims of this regime change.
It does seem that we've got a much more moderate electorate than some of the Conservative commentators think.
Veteran ALP strategist Bruce Hawker, who was at Kevin Rudd's side through a couple of coups, echoes these views, telling MediaWatch,
"Leaking is probably more of a concern than what Alan Jones and Andrew Bolt might say."
And that brings us neatly back to where we started. Because within hours of the new PM taking over from Tony Abbott, the drip, drip, drip had begun.
A sensitive cabinet document leaked to Fairfax Media shows Malcolm Turnbull was the Abbott government's worst performing minister when it came to appointing women to boards. The leak, designed to damage the newly minted Prime Minister, came as Mr Turnbull's predecessor revealed his plans to stay on in Parliament.
And in case there was any doubt about the origin or intention of that leak, the Australian cleared it up.
Tony Abbott has pledged not to white ant Malcolm Turnbull, but some massively angry followers seem prepared to provide the sort of cabinet leaks used to destabilise the former Prime Minister.
It wasn't long before the abuse was coming Turnbull's way too. In the Fairfax papers, Paul Sheehan was branding the new PM a clinical narcissist who cannot change. And over at the telly, they also found a stick or Photoshop to beat him with.
Prime miser. Mal says, "Scrooge you, taxpayers."
Penny-pinching millionaire Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull claims $10 from taxpayers when his wife comes to stay with him at his luxury Canberra penthouse.
So, how hard will it be for Turnbull to go the distance? Well, harder than it used to be. But it's worth remembering that leaking and plotting did not come down in the last shower.
Look, it's a myth, actually, that this has only been a recent phenomenon. Yes, there has been more of it. There are studies into this with journalistic scholarship, and there has always been unattributed sources that have been published and reported on. There's a proliferation of it because of the modern media age. There's more media.
More media, more polls, more space to fill, and more opinion as loudmouth commentators plug the gaps in the 24-hour news cycle. And then there's social media, where even more raucous opinions can be recycled by the mainstream media as news. But this new reality also provides an opportunity. And who better to exploit it than our thoroughly modern Malcolm, who has multiple devices to keep in tune with social media and knows how to use them, as he showed in the Bronwyn Bishop Choppergate scandal.
Malcolm Turnbull live tweets public transport trip to Geelong.
Yes, if anyone can use the modern media to advantage, it's probably our new PM. But some say it would be best for everyone for him to stay above the noise and concentrate on running the country.
I think Turnbull just has to do a sensational job in terms of policies, in particular achieving meaningful reform, rather than pandering to the loudest voices.
Meanwhile, with Turnbull surely safe until the next election, Labour leader Bill Shorten may find he is the one in the firing line.
The vultures will be hovering again soon enough as Bill Shorten begins to stumble.
And indeed, they already are. Even Tasmania's Bernie advocate is writing him off.
Bill Shorten's leadership of the Labor Party is virtually doomed. Failing major coalition stuff-ups, Mr Shorten will be lucky to see out the summer.
But, as one former Labor Prime Minister told MediaWatch not so long ago, real leaders can prevail. We asked Paul Keating, has modern media made Australia more difficult to govern? Is the media to blame in any way for current political instability? Has it made the country ungovernable? And he told us, fundamentally no, a broadly no, and no. The trick is to lead and keep those polls in your favour. And you can read more on our Facebook page or our website, where you can get a transcript and download the programme. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or MediaWatch on Twitter. But for now, until next week, that's all from us. Goodbye.